Hi everyone, it's Amanda from Salty North Studio, and today I'm going to go over one of two ways you can create a repeat pattern in Adobe Illustrator. So as you can see, I have two motifs here. It's actually just the same motif. I just rotated it and repeated it here. I made both of these in Procreate, and that's normally how I make all of my motifs. I draw them with my Apple Pencil and I bring them into Adobe Illustrator and vectorize them. So you can kind of see here, it's definitely vectorized, which is important just because it's high res and you can expand your image as large as you want and you won't lose any resolution. So there's two techniques that I'm going to go over here. Today I'm going to use the technique that actually comes with Illustrator to help you construct a repeat pattern. And it's not something that I use all the time, but when I'm making a simple geometric pattern or there's one or two motifs that I just want, next to each other, pretty geometric, simple, I use this method. It's super quick. And my other technique is more for tossed patterns. You use an artboard like this and you lay out your motifs, kind of like this. If you've looked this up at all, you know what I'm talking about. And you have to make sure your sides are all seamless and you make the swatch yourself. So I'll go over that next week. So today I'm going to start off with my two motifs here. And the reason why I'm using two is because I'm imagining in my head a repeat that looks something like this, maybe. I don't know if, there we go, something like this. So I just want, I want these two motifs here to repeat over and over again next to and underneath each other. And that's something that this technique is going to help me do really quickly. So you can follow along if you don't have two motifs, or you just want to maybe try using a shape. You can draw a shape with a shape tool or two shapes and just kind of mess around and do the same thing. So I'm going to select, you want to select everything that you want in your pattern. So I'm selecting the two motifs, and you're going to go to Object in the menu, go down to Pattern and click Make. And this is going to bring up our Pattern Options menu. So what this is going to do is repeat everything in this bounding box here. This is your swatch bounds. So to make this a little bit clearer, you can actually dim everything outside of your original motifs just to see exactly what you're editing versus, what the pattern itself is going to look like as a whole. If things are complicated, it's easy to dim this and it just kind of makes it a little bit less confusing. But if we take it all the way up to 100, it's just going to make everything the color 100%, and you can really see the pattern as a whole. So within my swatch bounds here, and this is a square that you can actually edit and change the size of, you can move your two original motifs and edit things that way. Or I usually try to place my motifs pretty much exactly where I want them to be to start with. And then all I want to do here is edit my width, which is going to be in between these motifs, and my height, which is this small gap here in between these two motifs and these two. So here's your width up here in your pattern menu and your height. and that's where you can bring those numbers up and down, and it will change. It'll just a live change so that you can see what's happening. And there's also a really cool feature here called tile type, and it's kind of a really great way to try out different layouts within this feature. So there's brick by column, brick by row. I think I am going to try brick by row because this is really similar to how I laid it out earlier. I just need to tighten up the width here and give a little bit more space in the height. So I'm going to go ahead and lower this number to something that I think is pretty even, and that already really brings it together. My original 2 motifs, I'm going to dim this for you just so that it's a little bit less complicated. My cat's meowing, sorry guys. So here's my 2 motifs. This is the gap that I'm trying to match here on this side. So I actually think this needs to be something like 209 pixels. Let's see, yes, perfect. And now I'm going to bring up the height just a smidge here. 190 maybe, and that's too much. I want it to really be consistent with the edges that I have on the side here. So let's see if 87, that looks good to me. So I'm going to bring this out so that you can see it and no longer dim the copies. Okay, so this looks good, and this is pretty much all I wanted to do here with these motifs. There are some other features in here, like overlap, that if you have a motif selected and it's overlapping on the left side, you want this left and front selected, otherwise this little edge is going to disappear. Just make sure all of your motifs are visible, and if they're not, when they cross the edge, that's why it's one of these settings here. So I'm about done. I'm going to click done, and don't freak out because you're not going to see your pattern. So this is where you really need to know where it goes. So it goes right into your swatches, and it just turned my color swatch into my pattern here. I'm going to drag out a rectangle, and this is the pattern I just made. So I'm going to drag it off of this white background, and you can see there's no background. So you want to make sure your pattern has a background and that it's not transparent. That's very important. So I'm going to put this back on the artboard. What you want to do is actually drag your swatch out from the swatches panel and let go. And this is your original swatch. This is what Illustrator helped you make the repeat of right here. So this bounding box, if you, let's say, used the rectangle tool and use a clipping mask and erased all of these edges here, and you tiled that rectangle next to each other and on top of each other, that's your seamless pattern. Of course, you don't have to do that in Illustrator. You can just, click your pattern and it fills it for you. But it's important because you want to ungroup this, and we actually want to find that box. So you just want to ungroup it, and you want to try to, there it is, get your mouse to hover over the box and select it. You don't want to make this box your background color. You want to copy and paste another empty box in there. So I'm clicking Command C, which is copy, while this box is selected, and I'm clicking Command B, which is paste in back. So this is a really, really easy way to copy and paste something directly behind itself, which saves so much time. I can't tell you how many times before I knew about this that I was dragging the rectangle and trying to zoom in and line it up perfectly. You just have to click Command C and Command B. So now there's actually 2 empty rectangles on top of each other here. You just now want to select the rectangle again, which is going to select the topmost one. And I actually have a color here that I want to use as my background. So I'm going to click the eyedropper tool. So it's important to have an empty square or rectangle behind your swatch. It's got to be behind everything, your background, your motifs. It's got to be the last thing, you know, in the layers panel, really, if you work with layers here, so that Illustrator can read. This is how the program reads your swatch edges, and that's how it knows how to tile it properly. So you want to select everything and drag it back into your swatches panel, and you're going to see your brand new swatch come up right next to your old one, and nothing changed about it, just the background. So I'm going to scale this out for you so that you can see it. And there it is. So that's just a really, really quick way of doing this. It really is much faster than trying to work with an artboard and making the edges repeat seamlessly if all you're going for is something like this. I hope this was helpful, and I would love to see what you create with this repeat pattern method. Please share your work on Instagram and tag me or DM me, or use the hashtag #SaltyNorthTutorial. I really, really would love to see your guys' work. Don't forget to subscribe to this video and follow me on Instagram. Comment with any questions, or if you have any suggestions for future tutorials. I would love to hear what you guys think. See you next time.